My name is Reggie Whitten, and really honored to have you here. My job tonight is to set up the film for you, so I'm going to do that. And then after the film is over, and it's about 54 minutes, and after the film is over, we're going to bring Sister Rosemary out here and sit her in a chair, and we're going to take questions from the audience. So it's going to be a rare opportunity for you to talk to somebody who I hope soon will get nominated for and win the Nobel Peace Prize. Pretty rare thing. So let me set it up. So here's the deal. Uganda was a colony of Great Britain. Winston Churchill in the 40s called Uganda the Pearl of Africa. It's so fertile, it's so beautiful. They say that if they had Oklahoma-type farming, you could feed the entire continent of Africa. It's that fertile. But they simply don't have any infrastructure. They don't have any tractors or fuel. They don't necessarily know how to farm like Oklahomans do. But it's such a beautiful country, and the people are so beautiful. But Great Britain moved out, and they turned it over to a president they handpicked. And shortly after that, one of the generals in the army named Idi Amin took over. It was a coup. And as soon as Idi Amin took over, the blood began to flow. The rest of the world was getting peaceful, but Uganda was not. And Sister Rosemary was a child, and she lived through the dictatorship of Idi Amin. I talked to a friend of mine who went over during the Idi Amin years, and as soon as he landed at the airport and left the airport, there were bodies on each side of the roadway as he drove down the road. That's the kind of country that Sister Rosemary grew up in. There was no rule of law. It was a dictatorship. So Idi Amin ruled for quite a few years, and then he was eventually kicked out. So the president who kicked him out is named Museveni, President Museveni, and he now is the president, and he's doing a pretty good job. Unfortunately, after they kicked Idi Amin out, a man named Joseph Kony in the north part of Uganda, and that's where Sister Rosemary is from. This man named Joseph Kony started an army, and he didn't have enough soldiers, so he began to kidnap children. I've never heard of anybody doing that, but he began to kidnap children. Tens of thousands of victims. No one really knows how many. And he made the little boys into soldiers and blackmailed or brainwashed them and made them kill their parents and their siblings. The little girls were prized for sex slaves. He called them wives. And Joseph Kony personally had more than 50 so-called wives. You're going to see one of them tonight in the movie. He had who knows how many children. Sister Rosemary has 6 of Kony's children, all born out of rape, that are in her daycare today. So in November of 2002, I didn't know any of this. I never heard of Joseph Kony. I never heard of his army, the Lord's Resistance Army. And I went over there because my son died. We have the Brandon Whitten Institute for Addiction and Recovery right here at East Central. And I never knew that was going to happen. But Brandon got addicted to prescription pain pills and died in February 2002. So some of my friends, including John Hargrave, the president of your university, dragged me over to Africa. And I went into northern Uganda where the war was still going on, and I saw what was happening. It was unbelievable. And it inspired me and kind of helped give me a reason to live. So I've been supporting Sister Rosemary ever since, and my wife is an avid fan. She's actually closer to Sister Rosemary than I am, and that's how they got involved in the purse project. That you'll see some of those purses outside. So by the time 2008 rolled around, we had created a charity called Pros for Africa. And I got a young filmmaker that used to work for OETA named Derek Watson. He's the guy that made the film. He listed Rochelle and I as producers, and that means we gave him ideas and we made suggestions. But Derek's the genius behind this film. So Derek and I were over there filming, and we interviewed some of these girls that were kidnapped, and I would hold their babies while Derek would film them. And it's unbelievable. We were hearing stories of girls killing their own sister, their parents. It was unbelievable. And I whispered to Derek during a break, I said, you know, we got to get this story out to the world, and we got to make a documentary film. So it took us about 4 years. And along the way, I wrote down a few things, and we talked about a book. So all these years later, now we've got a book. We just rolled it out in this month. It's available on Amazon.com and Kindle and all that. All the profits go to Pros for Africa, and Rosemary tells us where to spend the money at. So we're hoping we can sell these books all over the world, really. So the film is not available publicly. You're one of the first people to see it. And we went out to the Napa Valley Film Festival last week, and they loved it. And it was really quite an honor to get invited. Out of 1,500 films, 115 films got in, and we were one of them. So Forrest Whitaker, the star of The Butler with Oprah, did the voiceover for the movie. And we're hoping he can help us get the movie and the book propelled out there over the next 6 months or so. So that kind of sets you up. It took us years to make this. It'll take you 54 minutes to watch it, and then you get to talk to the star of the show, Sister Rosemary. So that's the setup. Enjoy the movie.
Reggie Whitten will be the moderator. Sister Rosemary will answer the questions. And if we have to ask and answer the questions several times, that's what Reggie's for. He's our interpreter here tonight. So I think we have some mics for the audience. And so be thinking of a question while we get the mic out to you. Anybody want to stand up and shout a question?
What's the average age for a woman in Uganda? The average lifespan, I mean.
The girls on my campus, you can get from 15 years, and the oldest is 25.
Due to the trauma and everything is what I'm referring to.
How long do they live in Uganda?
Oh, the lifespan, you mean?
The lifespan.
55 years.
Okay, thank you.
55. So a person of my age is supposed to be dead.
Who else has a question? It's your chance to talk to a Nobel Peace Prize winner, I hope. So, there's a question way in the back there, but I can't see with these lights.
I have one. Did you hear that Joseph Kony may be turning himself in, and what do you think about that?
That's absolutely not true.
I don't trust that. That's a weak statement as far as I'm concerned, because I've known this for the last 25 years. And so I really want to live to see it happen.
There was an article that came out today that he's talking to, I think it's the Central African Republic, about cutting a deal, but not to turn himself in. But he's had 25 years to turn himself in. That's not going to happen.
You see, it so happened that people were so deeply engaged in peace talk, and a lot of money went in peace talk to try to persuade Joseph Kony. It was like 5 years ago. And when the international community was spending a lot of money on that, I, in my own quiet way, I was saying, I wish they could give me 1/4 of that money. I spent it with these young women. Because they were spending the money and I could see the money was going for no reason.
You have a question in the back?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you to East Central for bringing you here. And I guess I'm wondering, what would you like us to walk away with? How can we in rural Oklahoma help the best we can? I know that it said that we can go to the website, but what would you also suggest?
One thing I would really like to ask everyone here is that you go out and spread the word and you tell exactly what you've heard. And also, I would invite you, as you've watched the documentary film, maybe you could also support us by buying this book, because the title is the same, Sowing Hope. And of course the book has got deeper stories, some light moments, and some very painful moments also. One thing about this book is that it's going to help us, it's going to sustain many projects for sowing hope, for sowing the lives of these women and children together. We are looking at the future of these children. And if people get to sell these books, I think that will be a very great way of joining us, of involving, and also of spreading the word. I'm sure there are a lot of people who didn't even hear about the war in northern Uganda. Some people even today, I heard with my own ears, did not know about Joseph Kony at all. So what about that? Reading this book and spreading the word, you do great for us. Thank you.
You got one there.
So first off, I just want to say that I feel really honored to be in your presence, so I'm a little nervous on this microphone right now. So I might stutter over my words just a little bit. But a couple of years ago, people in the U.S. kind of took to social media. I'm sure some of the younger generations are familiar with the Stop Kony. You know, people were spray painting, stop signs, they were selling the buttons and everything here. And there was an organization called Invisible Children. Now, I had heard a lot of controversy surrounding that whole campaign, and I'm just really shocked that I never heard of your work and I had heard of them. And so, do you have any association with them? Had you heard of them? Does any of their money come to your schools? Or vice versa?
You know, you shouldn't be surprised why you didn't hear about me. And actually, I existed before the Invisible Children. But the whole idea is, those who are behind the Invisible Children and those who are putting the flyer in the United States are Americans. And Sister Rosemary is a poor, small and short Ugandan African nun. I'm sure you have figured out that one. How would I be popular in the United States? It was not until 2007 when the CNN highlighted my work, when people started knowing. And not even that. That was just for a very short time. Reggie Wheaton here can explain to you better how I started coming out, and especially in Oklahoma, how the whole story about Sister Rosemary and her work is being told. I think I would like Reggie to highlight that.
Yeah, she's friends with the founders of Invisible Children. They were a bunch of college kids that went over there, and they were aspiring filmmakers, and they had their cameras with them. If you've seen their original film, it's really good. And they were over there, they were probably in danger. They probably shouldn't have been there in that first film. And it probably happened, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. I think they're in their 40s now. But she's friends with them. They actually know each other, and they've actually asked Rosemary to be in one of their films, and she declined. She was doing more important work. And so I think the Invisible Children guys started out with a very good intent, and then their executive director, who was in the film, got sick. He has schizophrenia, and ended up taking his clothes off, and was photographed on TV walking down the road, babbling. And he has a mental illness. And a lot of people thought he was on drugs. That's not true. He has a mental illness. So that brought the whole campaign almost to a halt. And I think they did some really good stuff. They've been criticized for not sending all of their money over there. I don't think they've ever helped you, have they?
No.
So, they had some really good things, but we're more focused, and we're focusing like a laser beam on Sister Rosemary. We do some other things, but primarily Sister Rosemary, because, everybody in the world knew about Rwanda. That was a terrible thing that happened there, but what happened in Uganda for 20 years, the eyes of the world weren't on it. And so that's why we just think this story needs to be told, because history, the Holocaust after World War II, we don't want to ever forget about that, because it'll happen again if we forget about it. But this thing that happened here, this genocide on children and on women, we can't let that happen again. So we've got to tell the story. And you know, I have a day job. I'm a lawyer like President Hargrave. And I don't know how to make a movie, but we did it, and it's pretty good. Do y'all like it, by the way? Got a pretty good star for the film. But Forrest Whitaker, I think, I hope will end up helping us get it known. We've got to go to some film festivals, and we're hoping someone like, you know, HBO or Oprah Network will buy it. And all the proceeds will go to Pros for Africa, which means she'll tell us where to spend the money. And in the meantime, we're trying to promote the book. And anyway, that's what we're doing. And I think we'll end up doing better than Invisible Children, I hope. We don't really like the name Invisible Children, by the way. Rosemary, why don't you comment
The children are visible. You see, they're there. And actually, if I watch that film with you now, I can call like half of the girls or the children there by name. You know why? Most of the children passed through St. Monica. In a way, the people who are working for Invisible Children didn't know. We were taking children, they were calling them night commuters. There were a lot of kids sleeping in St. Monica. And of course, one thing about Invisible Children, everybody has got a policy. They have got their bureaucracy to follow and so forth. They focus on secondary education and maybe even bright students. Meanwhile, I stand to support those students who people really put aside and say they've dropped out, they did not succeed. Those are my people. And those ones will not qualify for the scholarship of Invisible Children. I can tell you, I one time personally went to the office of Invisible Children only to ask them to build for me an oven. And I had to write a long project. I didn't have time for it. I didn't write it.
Okay, I hope we answered your question. I can see somebody else out there. We might need it. Oh, are we going over here? Okay. We'll come back to you. Yes, ma'am.
And I just want to say God bless you for all you're doing and for your faith.
Thank you.
Now, are you familiar with EWTN and Mother Angelica, which is international?
Actually, I learned about that program like 3 months ago, and it's because it runs at a very difficult time for us in Uganda. And because I sleep very late, I'm the only one who can remain there watching it.
But that would be a good way for you to get it spread, the knowledge of this. Another thing, what type of programs you were talking about, other things you would like to do, like the restaurant, the gas, are there other areas that you're trying to get volunteers or donations or something to help you creating more than just the school?
You know that there are a lot of things we want to do. I don't know if it was highlighted that in all the programs I'm starting, I want that holistic approach to human development. That means I'm focusing on education and health. And so we've started with a very small clinic, and I'm sure because of the need, that clinic needs to grow. And for that reason, we take volunteers, either they are medically trained or not, they can come. And of course, we are only not building in Uganda, we have gone to also constructing schools and health centers in South Sudan. And also we are focusing on education for children, kindergarten up to primary, because we are looking at the future of these kids as part of our program of really sowing hope for northern Uganda and South Sudan.
Okay, one other thing, and then I'll turn this over, but there are some types of people who do loans, even getting a little bit of interest, so like a 4% interest that we're loaning, say, $600 to somebody to buy or do something. Is that something that, he said he was an attorney, that might be a program that could be set up that even children could, either donate or get
I don't think
involved.
microloans are going to help these kids. They have nothing. They've never seen a dentist. They've never seen a doctor. The idea they're going to pay a loan back when they don't have a job, there's nothing up there. I'm telling you, it's the Wild West. And so she's building infrastructure. So, maybe in the future when they have something, maybe a loan would come in handy. But we're not to the point where these kids need to be borrowing money. They want a job. They want just the basic life necessities. The poorest people in America have it better than these kids. They were robbed of their education. They can't read, they can't count. They were robbed because they were kidnapped and made slaves, sex slaves. And so we've got to do something to help them. Okay, we had some more questions.
While you talk about that, actually, I have tried everything in my life. One time, someone gave me $2,000, and I put that as money which these girls should come and borrow and do something for themselves. But I knew the risk. The risk was that I would not get it back. There was no interest on it. So I don't think that is called loan anymore. And of course I didn't get any interest. A lot of them did not return it. And of course it would have been, the worst thing for me to do would be to ask them to give the money back. Because a woman comes, she has 3 kids, she has no husband, the husband has remained in the bush as a rebel, and this girl is taking care of her kids. She must feed them, she must give them health care. I thought that was a useless thing for me to start. It didn't succeed, but I tried it.
Yes, sir.
That's a great honor for you in Oklahoma, and we woke in East Central at it. Congratulations. Sister, when the young ladies finally finish your school, are there adequate job opportunities or ability for them to actually make a living outside of the school?
In fact, that is our greatest aim, that we need to train these girls in order for them to get reintegrated in the society. And of course, we started different type of skills while they are also getting psychologically prepared to go into society. Like for instance, we teach them catering, basic cookery. But the way we do it, we invite people to come and have workshops and meetings in our center. But I want people to come there and see how these girls are being prepared and what they cook and how nice the foods are. When they come, we make them pay for the foods they're coming to eat. And in that way, they also begin to see that these girls are people who can be hired. Then we send them to hotels for industrial trainings, and honestly, I've not seen even girls coming back to look for employment from me. Almost all hotels in northern Uganda, I get my girls employed. And that is for me a great sense of self-fulfillment. Then, even the girls who are being trained to sew clothes, I see them starting their own small businesses. And for those who don't have, I create business for them. Then we have this past project which we are introducing. I invite them to come, say, come and get some work on it, I teach you, then you come and get money. We really try our best to let them settle by themselves, because I know these girls will never get married, because our culture is a very difficult culture. A girl who has got 2 children from somebody with 3 children cannot be remarried. And it is worse because these children are got from rebel commanders.
And I don't think the movie adequately, it's hard to convey the truth, but when President Hargrave and I went over there 4 or 5 years ago, Rosemary had one of her girls bring us some tea. And I'll never forget it. This girl basically almost crawled in the room. She had her head down. She couldn't look at us. And I asked Rosemary, why is she doing that? It's because she had been a slave. So, I mean, if she ever looked up, these men beat her. I mean, it's horrible. So she has not only the task of taking children who were robbed of their education, but she's got to get them over that. She has to restore their basic human dignity, bring them up to just a level where they can communicate and where they, feel they have worth. Because they're worth just as much as anybody else on this planet. And so she has an incredibly difficult task. This is a whole generation of stolen children. They're not invisible. They were kidnapped. They were enslaved. So she has a job that she didn't ask for, and nobody wants to help her. And the world forgot about these kids. And that's why we made the movie, and that's why we're selling the book. We had some questions back up here a while ago. I don't know if you guys remember your question.
Sister Rosemary, we have very similar jobs, as we spoke earlier. Teaching young women how to sew is part of what I do here. But I want to know some very practical things, because we deal in practical fabrics and sewing machines and those types of things. if we were to ship things to you there, is there a high penalty for you to get them, or shipping cost on your end? Or can we pay all that on our end if we wanted to ship things like needles or threads or fabrics or notions?
I think that I will give to Reggie and Pros for Africa to answer, because they have that experience.
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. And it's a real problem for us. They currently tax the recipient, so we don't ship anything over there. Plus, they don't really have UPS and FedEx in northern Uganda. So what we do, my wife, I don't know if she's in the room or not. Rochelle, are you in the room? Oh, she's hiding out here. She's the architect of this. She went to the airlines and found out every time we fly over there, we can take 10 suitcases if we pay for it. And so we look like a freak show. So Rochelle, they see Rosemary and Rochelle and her crew of women, like maybe 10 women with 100 suitcases. It looks like a zoo. And we carry over their pop tabs, thread, sewing machines, and other things, sometimes medicine. And they don't give us a hard time on that. One of these days we might figure a way to get stuff over there, but we're having to carry it over there, and then the purses we bring back. And that's how we do that. So, you know, if you had something you wanted to ship over there, and by the way, thank you for the 1,000 spools of thread. I understand we're up to 1,000. We will gladly and thankfully take those, and we'll carry them in our suitcases over there.
But I'm sure some of you know how to ship things in Uganda. I'm telling you, there are a lot of people who don't want to share exactly their successes with others. Just before I came, I realized that there is an American man who is shipping things back and forth. And I got his email. I wrote twice. He never responded. I said, just tell me how you do it. Can you help me? He never responded. So what do I do? I am there just stuck. And they are doing it. Why don't you help me just with maybe 5 suitcases? If you really know those who are doing that, just go after them for me kindly. Thank you.
Well, you can count on us to fill some suitcases, that's for sure.
This might be a good time. You know, if he was here, she would box him. You want to tell your boxing story? This is how she teaches these girls, by the way.
You see, we have a big problem. Boys tend, even in our culture, to bully girls. Like, at my own time, women of my age, many of them could not succeed with education because the boys would tease you, they would bully you, and you have to drop out of school. And I learned to study, I learned to succeed because my own brothers taught me how to defend myself. They taught me how to box. And honestly, I had to do it sometimes. One boy boxed me, I was crying. My brother walked in the class and asked me, Rosemary, why are you crying? I was totally disappointed. I said, that boy in front, called John, knocked my head. And he told me, say, let's go there. Do exactly what he did to you. I knocked his head more than he knocked mine. I really had to survive. I had to defend myself. I learned, and that's exactly our life there. Because if you don't defend yourself, you can't succeed.
She's a pretty good teacher to these women. Somebody else had a question back here.
I wondered how involved is the World Council of Churches? Are they promoting assistance for you in any way?
No.
The World Council of Churches made up of all the denominations.
I don't think. World Council of Churches have been very, very active in the Sudan, in South Sudan especially. But in Uganda, I don't think. Because I've not heard of any support, especially in as far as I'm concerned. You would be surprised, many people don't know what I'm doing also.
Well, and the second thing I was thinking about is the country, the area of Sierra Leone. We send baby quilts for the AIDS babies there. And we ship those UPS to South Dakota. And South Dakota has 2 optometrists that they rent a boxcar, actually. And they put all of the medicine that goes to the Kissy, I think it's called the Kissy Maternity Clinic in Sierra Leone. And everything we send, supplies and everything, go into that boxcar and it's sent to Africa. That's the way they did our baby quilts that we sent. But is there a way to get the Council of Churches, the World Council of Churches, involved in this? I mean, they made it very obvious when the little boys were being trained, we didn't hear anything about the girls.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because people wouldn't like to talk about it. These are people who are really put right away completely. No one is caring. And when you talk about UPS, I'd like to let you know that we tried. Rachel, the wife of Reggie, sent me things by UPS, and it took me like 7 hours to travel to the city to collect that. And on top of that, I think Rachel paid money. I was also asked to pay money. And for me, it was so disappointing that I paid a lot of money on top of what she paid. That's exactly how the UPS functions. We don't have it at all in that part of Uganda where I am. The northern part of Uganda is totally gazetted, a different area. Even it's just behind with development and everything.
That's why we got to have this book. See, I've never heard of the World Council of Churches, but we were in California last week, and a well-meaning guy raised his hand, and he said, I don't understand why you guys haven't gotten Bill Gates to get on board and help. And Rosemary basically said, if you have Bill Gates' cell phone number, give it to me. And so, you know, that's why we've got to get the movie and the book out there. I would like to think anybody who saw this movie would want to help.
Yeah.
And that was about the boys.
You know, it's very easy for people to talk about the boys. And actually, you are reminding me, in Gulu there is a huge school for rehabilitation of boys. And that was built even by, I think, with the help of UNICEF. And it's surprising that very little attention is given. And it's a complex situation because the girls were taken in captivity. They return their mothers. They are taken up with the child care. The boys do not have the stigma of giving birth, and they are given opportunity to go on with their studies. Some of these boys are even in the United States. You will never see any of my women studying again in the United States. That is even injustice, you know. Nobody cares anymore to advance the education of these girls because they are already grounded as mothers. That is their destiny. They didn't want it. They were forced to become mothers. They would have gone on with their education. But the world is very unjust sometimes.
Did we have, okay, sir, you had a question.
Hello, sister. My question is, you've been such an influential person on the people of Uganda, and my question is, have you ever thought of doing anything political or possibly trying to be the president of Uganda one day? That's a serious question.
I don't think they will like me to be a president because I may cause everything to go upside down. They will not like me. But I've never thought of it. Actually, I think politics is something I would put aside. I come from a family full of politicians, and I'm the only one totally different. I say, do your part in politics, I'll do my part in a hidden way. But I am very political in my hidden way. I'm political.
God bless you, sister.
I can challenge the rebels who come back to say, we want our wives. I know the politics are challenging them. You can't take, you have no wife here. These girls who are your sex slaves, you cannot call them your wives in front of me. So that is my strange politics.
Sister, I have a question. How do you think, what are the chances that one of your girls might end up doing what he said and becoming the president of Uganda or maybe the Pope?
Actually, the reason why I'm so focused on promoting these women and their children is for that reason that in the future, some of these children could easily become great people. They could end being actually the president of Uganda, definitely. And I always tell people, who said some of these kids we are helping, one of them cannot become a pope, really? One may become a pope. You'd be surprised to hear. In fact, it's a strange thing I was sharing with Reggie. Last night I had a strange dream. I was dreaming of one boy who I noticed used to come to sleep, taking refuge. And I'm supporting this boy to go on with his studies. He's a very humble boy. He's not very smart, but very, very good boy. This boy came to me to ask me to give him school fees. And I told him, while I give you school fees, there was a journalist, I said, tell the journalist about other children who they did not interview. Let the journalist go to interview these children too. My mind is all that these children will succeed one day and become great.
Do we have some more questions? I'm having trouble seeing it out there. Yes, ma'am.
Sister, it's wonderful to have you here in Ada. Thank you. It is an honor. My question is, and I stepped out for a moment, so I may have missed this. On average, how long are the girls at your tailoring school?
You know, we normally don't give these girls any limit of time. Otherwise, our training takes from 1 year to 3 years. But sometimes it depends on the level of trauma a girl has. Sometimes it's not only about training them for the tailoring, it's about rehabilitating them. It's about being present with them and working with them to get over their past. So we have some girls who have lived in our center for 7 years. And we have to find for them employment. There is one girl, I don't think she will ever go away from that center. So we really don't give that limit of time.
Speaking of time, President Hargrave, it's your show. How long do you want to do this?
We can keep the building open all night, but I know there's some people that want to buy books. There's some people that might want to look at the purses. You have some out there, sister?
Yes, we have them.
By the way, what is your favorite university?
East Central University was the first one. I was introduced here. I'm so happy to have. I had a pen only, and I treasure that pen. I still have it in Uganda, East Central. And one day I got a priest had it, and I asked him, I said, where did you go, Tiger? I knew he picked my pen. I treasure it. Thank you so much.